This video is sponsored by Sportsman's Guide. If you use my code WARPOET, you can save money on all kinds of stuff. Firearms, accessories, guns, bullets, hunting gear. They've got all kinds of stuff. Make sure you check them out.
Kevin, what are you doing? Stop! Doyle rules!
All right, hey folks, hanging out with my buddy Craig Douglas of Shiv Works, knife fighting extraordinaire. I always say that when I say videos.
You do.
I need to come up with a new catchier thing to say.
Knife fighting sous chef.
Grandmaster,
Grandmaster.
Jedi, Knight, Samurai, Ninja.
Warlord.
Warlord's good. Anyway, he's good with knives. He's this comes from experience, real world experience, and it comes from a lot of combative stuff. You studied all kinds of knife fighting stuff.
I did.
What's a quick little rap sheet of things you've done?
I've done Inosanto Lacoste Kali, I've done Pakiti Tertia Kali, I've done several different forms of Salat as far as Southeast weapons-based systems. I don't do those anymore. I've taken more of a wrestling-based approach to my knife work, and that's based on what happened to me working undercover and what did come out and what didn't come out.
What happened working undercover?
Well, you know, most of the stuff kind of fell by the wayside, and what I found was I didn't have a good delivery system that was pressure-based, and what I did do is start really investigating combat sport, and that's kind of what got me more functional, for lack of a better term, and then started doing stuff like that in the environments that I was working in, places like cars, and that's kind of what created how I think about using a small fixed blade knife to this day.
Gotcha. So a lot of the systems before, you say, didn't really do what you thought they would do.
They didn't
you
come
went
out
a little bit more simplistic, like wrestling worked a...
Yeah, wrestling seemed to work well. Jiu-jitsu seemed to work well. You could certainly make an argument that I didn't put enough time into those systems. Now, I spent probably 9 years doing assorted systems like that, and
Right.
the vast majority of them just did not work well for me in the environment that I was trying to apply motor skills in.
So it's good stuff, but for entangled stuff, you ran into some difficulties at those. Okay, cool. So specifically, we're talking about fighting in cars, real close entangled stuff. So like, hey, it doesn't matter as much how you fight your buddy in a dojo. What it matters is how bad guys actually attack, and then figuring out how to turn the tables on that. How do bad guys normally attack?
Well, you're usually doing something else. You're not standing there waiting on it. So we think of that as what we call an unequal initiative event, meaning I'm usually tasked out, such in my case, back in my undercover heyday 20 plus years ago,
So old, so ancient and old.
Trying to purchase narcotics or guns or whatever, and in the middle of that buy, things blew up in my face. And it was almost always in an environment that historically I had never been trained in. So most of my training, most of my motor skills training was done on ranges and mat rooms and things like that. And I was having to apply motor skills in bar rooms, restaurant booths, vehicles, very different environment to apply motor skills in. And it really changes a lot of the orthodox skill sets that you learn in martial arts, almost to the point where it doesn't even bear a resemblance to the original orthodox art. So the novelty of a particular environment, whether it's knife work or shooting or grappling, really has an impact on how that skill is applied, and moreover, what comes out, what doesn't come out, what works, what doesn't work. Very different circumstances.
It was out of Craig's experience, real world, and just in training environments that he developed a product he calls the Clinch Pick. I've taken some of Craig's training, and so anyway, if you want to watch me fight a UFC fighter who is also new to the world of guns and knives as well. He was new to the world. I'm not new to the world of guns and knives. But anyway, we ended up going at it. Make sure you check out some of our other collaborative work. You can see me get in some fights and do some other stuff. But anyway, training with Craig, he showed me just kind of his problems, and then one knife which he has here called the Clinch Pick. I liked it enough that we're selling it on our website. So incredible tool, but we wanted to show you the Clinch Pick, model its features, and then kind of show it off in a vehicle in those tight confined spaces. So first, can you give us kind of the features, the highlights of the Clinch Pick?
Absolutely. So the Clinch Pick is a small fixed blade knife. It's 5.5 inches in length overall. And that footprint of 5.5 inches came from a lot of experimentation, basically wanting to deploy the knife in a seated position. What I wanted was something that had as much blade as possible, was comfortable to wear, sat in historically unoccupied space, and also was hand filling and still able for me to get a really, really good purchase on. So what we have with the Clinch Pick is the 5.5 inch envelope. We went with basically an egg, and what that looks like is just a hand filling portion right here that fills the hollow of the palm without having length. That's what we looked for there. So I wanted something, as you can see on the trainer, that even when I was seated, okay, I could still get access to, that didn't come all the way down. It was uncomfortable to wear for extended periods of time. So 5.5 inch envelope overall. The downward diagonal angle was critical to me because what I wanted this to do is sit in the inguinal crease. So relatively comfortable position to be. And this is also at the time that there are not a lot of Kydex manufacturers out there. I think back then we had Blade Tech was just starting off. We had guys like Kevin McClung, Mad Dog, making Kydex, but Kydex sheaths were still somewhat in their infancy. So just the idea of getting the knife at a downward angle, most of the sheaths back then were leather.
Yeah.
So it took a while for the design to actually come into fruition. The very first Clinch Pick that came out was built by a guy named Trace Rinaldi, a custom knife maker that made it to my specifications. And that was late 2002 that the knife came out. So the knife's been in production now either through custom makers, semi-custom, or now as we have overseas production. So we have the egg-shaped handle to minimize length and keep the overall footprint down. What we also have is we have a sharpened top edge. And as I'll demonstrate here shortly, what that's really good for is when a guy grabs my knife trying to keep himself from getting run through with it, the edge is always facing him. So when we look at breaking grips and just basically hooking that guy's limb and shearing it like would fillet a fish, pulling with my back muscles, it's a really, really insidious way of using the edge. And basically a guy pays for defending himself when I'm trying to stab him.
Right.
So, but the downward angle, the egg-shaped grip, the reverse edge, those are the primary features of the Clinch Pick that make it the knife that you can really get out when you can't get anything else out. And again, this is born specifically of my experience buying drugs and other things in cars.
You shouldn't do drugs.
Shouldn't do drugs.
Shouldn't buy drugs.
I was working when I was buying drugs. I wasn't not working.
Okay, you definitely shouldn't do drugs at work. Anyway, can you demo some of what you just said
Absolutely.
with the trainer?
I most surely can. So I have the trainer set on me in the configuration. Now look guys, you can carry this knife however you want to carry it, but this is how I designed it, was to ride at this downward angle. So if I were pinned with my arms to my body, okay, much like that right there, okay, it can be hard to get a handgun behind the hip. It can be hard to get something out. Also, we have to think about the waist being covered and this thing being concealed. So if I had something that I had to lift up versus pull down, I have to clear that cover garment. And when John has me like this wedged into something, I may not even be able to get that cover garment up. What I can do, if I can get my hand, okay, just to my waist right there and get a handle on the egg, I can, even if I don't have space to pull, because John's got my arm wedged right now, okay, what I can do is move my hips and get this blade out. And right now I've got this blade indexed right on my hip, and if I just drive my hip into him, unless he wants to get stabbed, he's going to give me the space I need to deploy something better that will induce a better physiological stoppage, like a handgun. So we talked about this in the previous video with the push dagger, that we think of knives fundamentally as space makers. This knife is designed to get someone off you and keep someone off you, which gets you either to beaten feet or, again, to something that's better for inducing a physiological stoppage like a handgun.
I love that. You know, just the raw, nasty, fall on the ground, push up against the wall, you know, just prison yard stuff. They run you up against the corner, and sewing machine stuff. I mean, if you're able to kind of have that right there and pinned up under the hips, which is brilliant, you're able to hip in, whereas I could stop your knife hand. I cannot stop that. And so just, that's super powerful. Whether you're on the ground, you're in a vehicle, holy smokes, Clinch Pick is the jam. These things are on our website. Make sure you check them out as well. But anything else for the demo there?
No, not really. I think we can see this how it works. One of the main things the shorter blades give you, you know, shorter blades, you're not gonna, let's talk about this, guys. I'm not gonna take John's arm off with this or behead him or anything like that. One of the main advantages of the shorter blade is that there's not much blade to clear. So notice, even with my elbow pinned here, okay, or my hand pinned in, I can't really move my hand that much, but if I can establish grip, what I'll do is I will turn my hips instead of move my hand. That knife is posted right on him right now, and unless he wants to eat that blade, he's going to give me the space I need and get off me.
Now, let's say you want to cut through my hand.
So if I want to cut through your hand and you're impeding my thrust line, very simple. All I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this towards you, and I'm going to pull with my back, just like I'd open up a fish, okay? And I'm going to get back to hitting him with it.
That's why you put the edge on the top.
That's why we put the edge on the top.
That's nasty. You got a sick mind, man.
Yeah, you know.
I like it. I mean, that's why we're buddies. It's like, oh, sick mind.
Exactly. Sick minds find each other, don't they?
Yeah, right. No, we're good men who want to do bad things to violent, bad people. Defenders of people. So we're your poets, right?
We're poets. Poets.
Plug my brand.
Poets. Poets.
But let's get in this vehicle.
Right.
Show me some stuff on that, right?
Okay, we're gonna get in that car and we're gonna show you how this works.
After you, sweetie.
All right. Hey. All right, guys. So we're here in the car to do a little demo, kind of where this tool came from, the history behind it. So first off, a car is an interesting, novel environment to learn how to apply motor skills in. Now, the chances of you being assaulted inside your vehicle, like I was as an undercover officer, probably pretty remote. Just don't let people in your car. However, odd things happen. More importantly, this is a great place to train motor skills. And again, the novelty of a particular environment goes a long way towards diminishing motor skills. So one of the things I look for as a motor skills instructor is as much unique, odd space that I can find to train in, to learn how to get my gun out in, my blade, apply my jiu-jitsu in, things like that. So cars are essentially cubes, okay? And the rules of base and friction and movement are drastically different inside of a vehicle. But one of the things that we have here, obviously, is the space is quite confined. And most people that fight in cars kind of tend to fight in cars the way they drive cars, which is meaning they keep their butt in the seat and they kind of pitter-patter at each other like that. The worst case for me, which actually happened at one point, is if John were to cross over right now and get me wedged into the B-pillar, okay? That's a bad place to be, especially if he gets body weight behind it, okay? Yeah, get some, oh God, that's a tough place to be. So John, go ahead and do that. All right, if we can see where I'm at right now, I've got a hand free, my offhand. I've got this hand free just like so, but I can't really do much in it. And I was put in circumstances like this where I couldn't get anything out and I just kind of got beat up. Now that event unfolded okay, but after a lot of thought and introspection, I wanted something that I could get out when I could get nothing else out. And that's kind of what the Clinch Pick is. So if we take that same concept, just give me your back again, John, really wedge me in here. Don't let me move, okay?
Oh.
So here we go. And that's what a car fight looks like, guys. There's a lot of pressure. And again, yeah, just bind my hands. That's fine. Grab them. keep them doing from whatever. Okay, yeah, here we go. So don't let me draw the, in fact, don't let me draw the clinch pick.
Okay.
Do not let me do it. I'm
Okay.
gonna draw with my right hand. Don't let me draw, that's my left hand.
All right, Roger.
Yeah, my right hand.
Roger.
Do not let me draw this.
I keep honking the horn.
Let's see if that's what a car fight looks and sounds like. All right, so from here, John's not gonna let me draw this. Really resist.
Holy smokes.
Okay, it's out.
Yeah.
The clinch pick is out.
And that blade is going to be right up toward me.
Yeah,
like
you can
I was
see-
about to cottage cheese lose
You can
it.
see what's happening here.
Ah.
That's where that top edge comes into play, right? If I can get this out and he's fighting, that's the first thing he's going to eat is that. Okay? And again, it's going to make some space. Let's do that again. Okay? So again, the downward angle, think about this. Think about what if I had to lift the cover garment up or get my hand, you know, we're in this space right here. Go ahead and wedge me it again. From here, just like so, I can't get my hand high. I can't do that. But if I can get my hips up here, just like so. I'm trying to do it with my right.
Give it away!
So here we go. Here we go.
Dang it!
Now he did a good job, and I almost went for it with my left hand. I don't want to cheat the video though. I'm making it more difficult on myself by telling him what hand, or letting him know what hand I'm going to deploy it with. Obviously, if I couldn't, for reals, okay, if I couldn't access this with my right hand, let's say he's really binding that, okay, I can still access it with my left. Okay, so when we're talking about a fight in this kind of space, there's not a lot you can get out. There really isn't. Obviously, jiu-jitsu body mechanics modified for this environment work exceptionally well. When you combine those jiu-jitsu mechanics and you add purpose-driven blade wear set up and optimized specifically for this, guys, when you can't get anything else out, you can get a clinch pick out. So that's basically how it works.
For those who don't know the tactics of what I was attempting to do, is I carry appendix, and so if I can crush him that way, I bind up any ability for him to get in his pockets, or if he's carrying a 3 or 4 o'clock position gun, it might as well be 1,000 miles away. He can't get anything except something like a clinch pick. So my tactic to crush him in, it's not mine, I mean Craig teaches that stuff, but to crush him in, now I can get to my tools and he can't stop me. So what I was doing, if you're like, why would you do that? You're an idiot. I'm like, nah, try some fighting. What I was doing works pretty darn well, unless he has a freaking clinch pick. So, right?
That's true. And it's so my buddy Paul Sharp tells a story from years ago about a professional fighter from the Midwest, a guy that actually fought in the UFC. And he saw him. Paul came up through the amateur ranks with this guy, and he saw him at a fight, and I think he was cornering like an amateur fighter, okay? But Paul saw this guy, and he saw that the guy was wearing a clinch pick under his shirt, and he made the remark, he said, dude, that's my buddy's blade. Why would you carry that as a professional fighter? And his answer was, best way to get off the bottom. So if a UFC level fighter is carrying something like that, and he understands how hard it may be in a real fight to get out of a space like this, and he chooses to arm himself versus just rely on his software, I think that says a lot for the tool.
Sounds good. Guys, clinch picks are on our website, warriorpoetsociety.us, so go ahead and check it out there. And yeah, anyway, Craig Douglas, ladies and gentlemen, lady and gentlemen, we have one gal that watches, nobody else. So thank you.
Is that a poetress?
It's a muse. We have poets and muses.
You have poets and muses.
There we go.
Okay.
I just mentioned that. That's not like a thing, but yeah, sure. My wife is my muse, so Mrs. Poet. But
that's a whole different line of swag.
Anyway, but yeah, no kidding. Good call.
Right?
Don't ask for royalties.
Monetization.
Guys, train hard.
Thanks.
Train hard and train smart. I got to say that script.
Train hard, train smart.
Yeah, you can say it to him.
Hard and smart.
Yeah, sure. You can
train hard, train smart. Poets poetically poetizing.
See you guys.